A day of action, and there are protests in 50 places, including Kiev in the Ukraine and Dublin in Ireland, opposing the repression against anti-war international solidarity activists taking place here. The 9 folks in Chicago have released a statement.
None of them are going to the grand jury?
None of them are going to the grand jury, and they appeared by letter. Their lawyers basically delivered a letter stating that to the U.S. Attorney. That's my understanding.
Wouldn't you rather be in Chicago?
Well, certainly not inside the grand jury room, but you know, the folks in Chicago asked that we organize demonstrations around the country today, and in fact around the world, to stand with them and send a strong message that the entire anti-war movement globally is behind them and not testifying before the grand jury today. So I'm proud to be out here in Minneapolis saying just that.
What's going on today is that people around the United States are standing up and saying no to the grand jury repression that's being unleashed on anti-war and international solidarity activists. And protests are taking place around the United States and in fact around the world. From Dublin to Kiev to Detroit, New York. People are in front of federal buildings, in front of FBI headquarters, and we're standing up and saying no to this repression. We're going to push back.
Community policing. I'm trying to tell them that it is not good practice to alienate the public and your reliable sources of good information.
Okay, with what?
What happens in the environment we're in, where they go after advocacy groups and peace protesters, is, from a law enforcement perspective, is they're alienating the public and their better, most reliable sources of information. When the FBI comes and knocks on a door and wants to know about drug dealing or bank robbery, people now are not going to trust the FBI. It's actually what happened in the 60s and the 70s. So we're seeing this all repeat.
Okay.
And that's why community policing is the better model.
Okay.
That means that you don't, you're judicious and you really only do investigate the criminals and you don't make enemies out of the public.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad to see the turnout today. The numbers of cities that have increased in terms of the protests. The fact that we've made this an international protest today has been amazing, and I hope that the 9 people in Chicago are hearing our voices today, that we're standing with them, and that we're so glad to hear that they're not participating in this witch hunt, just like the rest of us are not participating in this witch hunt, and we're standing with them today.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
Oh, it would be beautiful to be in Chicago to stand in solidarity with people who are refusing to testify. But it's just as important to be here and the other places around the country and the other places around the world. I mean, I just think what's important is that the people in Chicago are going to see that it's not just that they are, saying no to this grand jury witch hunt, like that they are part of a movement, and the movement is like standing with them, because we realize that this is an attack on the movement and not just an attack on the Regional 14, which I'm of course a part of, or an attack on these 9 new individuals. So I think what's most important is that we're all together, even if we're separated by geography, we're not separated by cause.
Hi everybody, I'm really glad to be out here with you today, and it's so beautiful to stand up in solidarity with the 9 activists from Chicago who are facing off with the grand jury today. We're sending token contributions to the Union of Palestinian Women's Committees, which has proposed who have survived decades of war and occupation at the hands of the U.S. government and its allies.
Right on.
When my Layla cries, I think of the mothers of the Layla.
Great show of solidarity for those 9 in Palestine, in Chicago. It's wonderful. In spite of this cold, and there are, as you know, demonstrations across the country and even in other countries. So we're standing strong. We're standing strong.
But I am absolutely ecstatic that we have this many people to show support. It meant it meant a lot to those of us who did it back in October, and it means a lot to them in Chicago, I'm sure too. And so I hope that this crowd doubles next time that we have to do this, and I hope that we don't have to do this again.
They stood united and said, absolutely not. We will not snitch on our colleagues. We will not.
Is a solidarity statement sent to us from Lynne Stewart, who is in federal prison right now. For some of you who might not know the background on her story, Lynne Stewart is an activist and a lawyer and current political prisoner. She represented Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman, who is an Egyptian cleric who was convicted of terrorism-related charges in 1996 and sentenced to life in prison. Today, Lynne Stewart is in prison because she advocated for him, her client, and for sharing this press release. She was indicted by a federal grand jury on charges of providing material support to a terrorist organization. These charges were dismissed, but a year later she was re-indicted on charges of conspiracy to provide material support for terrorism and obstruction for justice. She was convicted this time and sentenced to 28 months in prison. This past July, a federal judge re-sentenced her to 10 years in prison, in part because she had not shown proper remorse for her, quote, extraordinarily severe criminal conduct. She's 70 years old. She's a cancer survivor, very strong person, obviously.
Here before the grand jury in Chicago today, and for showing your continuing support for the other 14 peace activists, associates, and the organizations and movements we have built. This is not a fight that I asked for, but it's one I can't walk away from, and one that none of us can afford to lose. Many of you know me. I've been an anti-war activist for my entire adult life, since the first Gulf War in Iraq. These are people that follow in a long line of tradition, of resistance to U.S. government repression. And we need to recognize them for that, because they will stand strong and we will stand strong.
And allow that to be heard. So